round in Atlanta, where the Sweet 16 South Regional will be held. We got Brendan Martin,
Buddy Martin.
executive producer in Ocala. Brendan, I love the
Buddy
glass.
Martin today.
Yeah, those glasses are absolutely fantastic.
There's something else, man. I mean, you really want to get into these right here. They're really slick. Look at the Coke bottles on those bad boys.
Hey, are they Mexican Cokes? I love them. I mean,
Rob, I'm not going there with the
they're
Mexican
great looking.
Cokes.
Those are great looking glasses.
Why would they be? I got to hear it now. Why would they be Mexican Cokes?
Well,
because
I drink Mexican Cokes because they're pure cane sugar versus American Cokes, which have high fructose corn syrup. So those are Coke bottles.
Both are equally good for you.
They are. But I love the glasses. Those glasses are classic. Okay, got a great show today. Take a picture with your cellular phone of the QR code. We're broadcasting live 7 channels simultaneously at the same time on X. Follow us at Rob Brown _. Also on Facebook and our YouTube channel.
Translation, just click the QR.
Click that QR code.
Go to X and follow. There you go.
And then Brendan is putting out reels on Instagram and stuff. There's just this channel is growing, and we appreciate your support. Tell your friends and family, and even your coworkers. So let's get started, man. We got Coach Matt Dean in Memphis, checking in from Rhodes College. Dudley Dawson, hogbill.net. Live from Busch Stadium. It's opening day of Major League Baseball. I'm over here at Mallory's, and son-in-law Tyler last night reminded her, he goes, you know what tomorrow is? And Audrey and my daughter Mallory were like, what's that? And he goes, opening day of Major League Baseball. She goes, oh, we live at their house is 0.97 miles away from the Braves stadium. So you can walk to the games, and every time they hit a home run, we see the fireworks in the backyard. So it'll be big. We've got Dudley Dawson, Matt Dean, ULM AD John Hartwell. Guys, it is Sweet 16 starts tonight on TV. Get ready. John, I know you've got limited time today. Just kind of give us an idea. There's no stress involved in being an athletic director with coaching searches and all. And you've got another one underway right now, but let's get started talking some basketball. By the way, all 4 of my Final Four teams are still alive.
Yeah, every day. Somebody asked me something yesterday about, hey, what do you enjoy about being an athletic director? I said, well, I'm gonna contrast my career for the last 28 years compared to when I first came out of college, being a CPA for Ernst & Young versus being an athletic director. Man, DeBarra, since it is opening day for baseball, you better be able to hold back on your bat and be able to hit the curveballs, because they're coming every day. They're opportunities, not obstacles, but it's all there are no 2 days the same. So every day you get out of bed and say, hey, what am I going to face today? And let's get after it, make the best of it. So, yeah, we got a women's basketball search going on right now. Had a candidate in Tuesday night and yesterday. Another one came in last night. Potentially flying out to meet a couple of folks. So it's just part of it on the heels of hiring a men's basketball coach. But we got a staff. We got some guys. I mean, the beauty today is, especially in basketball, when you really have, you have 13, 14, 15 spots to fill. Even if you lose a whole roster, you can get well in a hurry in basketball. Take some money, take some NIL money, and a coaching staff that has connections. But it's not, woe is me, we lost our entire roster. What the hell are we going to do next year? You've got opportunities to get better, and so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, everybody faces adversity. I mean, that's just part. Kelvin Sampson, 2 years ago, he's playing the number 1 seed in Birmingham, Alabama, when he's the number 1. This year, as a number 1 seed, he's going to play Purdue in Indianapolis in the Sweet 16. So, hey, Matt, jump in here real quick. I don't know, and Dudley and I, we're all talking, our teams in the Final Four. How are your brackets looking right now?
Ironically, I have 7 of the Elite 8 left, okay? And I think 11 of 16. But the one that I knew about, and Dudley, I had a feeling in Arkansas, but I didn't take him over the second round game, and that's my mistake. I think Arkansas right now is playing really, really well. And it would not shock me if they beat Texas Tech. Now, that being said, I thought Texas Tech played really well against my alma mater and beat Drake, and they're getting healthier. I think it's going to be, Rob, Florida has got a reprieve after a UConn game that could have gone either way, but down the stretch, boy, some big shots there. Clayburg made some big shots, man. And I think Florida rolls against Maryland. I really do. I think Arkansas, Texas Tech is a great game. And then, I honestly believe that Bama, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think Bama will take care of business tonight. And the Bama Duke game, if it happens, I'll say why because I tell you what, Arizona is playing tremendous basketball right now. Caleb Love would not shock me if he took over that game against Duke.
We talk about Alabama and Dudley, talk about Arkansas and all these SEC schools. The Hogs, Athu Adiro, he's going to play. When Boogie Flans came back, we thought maybe 12 minutes. I think he played 25. At this point, these are young kids. I think they'll go as far as they need to go and do anything to help the team win. Now, my friend Robert Hill, who is a lifelong Razorback, farms about 6,000 acres over right there in Parkin, Arkansas, where we are. He's listening right now, and he said, man, when I don't pay attention, when I focus on farming, Hogs win. So should we tell Robert Hill not to watch tonight?
I have a few of those superstitions myself.
Yeah.
Petra was I guess the word might be appalled at some of them that I've had over the years, but I think Arkansas is playing really well. Obviously, I'm not breaking any scoops. They're certainly a lot different than the team they were. They went to South Carolina. I think Adu will play some minutes. They'll probably get the most they can out of him. They were going to play Boogie Flan 6 to 8 minutes or whatever it was, and he played 24. Once you get going there, although their injuries are a little different. One was a hand, and the other's an ankle/knee situation. So, but it's going to be a great game. And Arkansas's played Texas Tech the past few years, either in the regular season or in the postseason. It's always been really good games. Now I'd be sitting prettier if I had been a homer and picked Arkansas those first two games, but I didn't. I had Kansas and knocking Arkansas out. So my wife got those 2 points. I didn't. So proof of my objectivity. But if I don't win that TV and that one thing I'm in, I'm going to be upset.
That's right. John Hartwell, again, what Dudley just said, people get superstitious about it. We all watch a lot of these games. Give me your Final Four.
I'm gonna change up a little bit. I think you're going to see a couple of 1 seeds. They may not go down in the round of 16, but I think in the round of 8. I totally agree with Matt. Arizona's playing well, and I tell you what, a lot of people don't realize, especially in our footprint of listeners. Tommy Lloyd is a heck of a basketball coach. He served under Mark Few at Gonzaga as the associate head coach for a significant amount of time. He knows how to coach ball. And so I look for them to give Duke everything they want tonight. Yes, it's hard to argue. Cal has got the Hogs playing well right now, and they could very well make it to San Antonio too. And then when you get into tomorrow night's games, look at what Coach Beard has done at Ole Miss, and they've got some horses now. They've got some guys who can play with anybody. But at the same time, as we talked on here last week, I would say anybody who bets against Tom Izzo in an NCAA tournament game, you might as well be lighting your money on fire, because that dude knows how to get it done in tournament time. So it is going to be. These 8 games here in the next 48 hours or 36 hours are going to be really, really entertaining. Another guy and this team's not even being talked about, total contrast in styles, but Matt Painter, man, Purdue has come in as a 1 seed 3 or 4 times, has not been able to get it done, but that guy can coach too. And I know that Matt's familiar with him too. Don't just automatically slot Houston to that Final Four either. So, man, a ton of good hoops coming here in the next couple of days.
Yeah, Purdue's point guard is from Arkansas. His mom and dad played at Arkansas Tech in Russellville here, and they ended up moving to Indiana. He might be playing point guard here at Arkansas now if they'd stayed around. But Braden Smith is a heck of a player, and he can get you to another round.
Arkansas Tech, nickname the Wonder Boys.
Mm-hmm. And she was a wonder girl too.
There you go. Matt Dean, you're a basketball junkie, addict. When you talk about here's a matchup: BYU and Alabama. What we do know about BYU is they'll sell a lot of Dr. Peppers tonight. John knows the truth. They'll probably sell some Jack Daniels. But
game won't be played on Sunday.
That's right. Won't be played on Sunday.
What is it? Dr. Pepper's? I thought it was Coca-Cola.
No, it's Dr. Pepper.
Are you sure?
I worked.
I grew up in Colorado now. I know a few. I have a few
Regardless
friends.
of what it is, you got to have a lime in it.
Yeah, you better
have
have
a
a
lime.
lime in it, bro. You got to look. Don't start down this path, man. I know
John-
all about that deal.
John lived
Right?
in Utah for nearly 8 years. Remember, at Utah State, so he saw one or two. But
Utah, Colorado.
Hey, you've got multiple BYU fans in there, so there will be some self-governance.
yeah,
Well, yeah, but those guys are all 30, so it doesn't matter anyway. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Hey, so let me ask you, Matt, Alabama, BYU. I tell you, Mark Pope, the new coach at Kentucky, came from BYU. He played at Kentucky. He definitely gets that Kentucky culture. But Matt, BYU, Alabama, what kind of a chance do the Cougars have?
The reason I think it's going to be a heck of a game is if you look at when BYU has played well, and they've had some big wins this year, and obviously the one to get them in the Sweet 16, there's nothing bigger. But they were 12 of 26 from three, guys, in the game against Wisconsin. Wisconsin came into that game not only as a favorite, but as a 3 seed and really playing well. So I think the safe bet tonight is just take the over and just enjoy the basketball game. But I want to say this to my Florida contingent. First of all,
Yes, I'm right here. What do you need?
Well, first of all, it's Clayton Jr. I butchered his name in the first segment, but here's what I want to say. After watching him play, Brendan,
Walter Clayton Jr.?
I'm a big Chicago Bulls fan, and I love Billy Donovan. I hope the Bulls draft him. I hope he's available for the Bulls to draft. I think that kid is such a winner. I think his game translates over every level. And after watching those 2 threes that he hit in the last 3+ minutes to seal the victory the other night, I have Florida as my national champion in my bracket, but I feel better about it now. I really do, because every time, and John, you remember as a player, if you're in a tournament, there's that one game you got to get over. And let's not forget, UConn was back-to-back defending champions. They were not the same UConn team, but UConn played really well. And despite all the things I don't like about Hurley, sometimes personally, he coaches his butt off. His team plays really hard. And I think that win catapults them, and I really think they're going to roll tonight against Maryland. I really do.
Hey, Matt, that's a great point. When you look at a lot of the championship runs of teams, a lot of them had early first, second, round scares and were able to overcome that. Certainly Florida did that. Hey, I want to make one other point real quick on BYU and why you just can't say, hey, this is Alabama's game, or count BYU going down the stretch out. People talk about the NIL money in the SEC and the Big Ten. Don't forget this, that the NIL deal at BYU, there's one name way at the top of that list, Ryan Smith, the owner of the Utah Jazz, who is arguably the number one fan of BYU. I just looked up for kicks and giggles, $2.6 billion, that's with a B, dollar net worth. That dude by himself is funneling or is funding a significant portion of the BYU NIL. I know they've got a player coming in next year, the number one ranked recruit. The belief is that's somewhere north of $5 million he's getting in an NIL deal. So they've been able to assemble talent on that team.
For all the acrimony with BYU, Kentucky, and Arkansas, things looks like they've worked out pretty well for each coach at each place.
Yeah. And John, the dynamics, and BYU has a big basketball arena too, and they always call it the mothership. I got a friend of mine who's He's Mormon, and of course he played at Alabama because his dad was coaching there. And he said everybody was like, "Why didn't you play for the mothership?" He said, "Well, my dad was offensive, coordinator at Alabama. I thought I'd walk on." And went to Thunderbird High School in Las Vegas, and great guy, love him. But I love the way. See, most of us are not familiar with BYU and that Mountain West and West Coast basketball. So getting some great insight. And John, come on, stay on as long as you can. But I know you got to do this search. But if you've got to go, leave us with this. Another game, you talk about Ole Miss against Michigan State. Chris Beard can coach his ass off. And I mean, I am having fun listening to people say Ole Miss doesn't have the money. You were a deputy athletic director at Ole Miss. Do they know who Sandy and John Black are? You see it on the pavilion. Dudley Dawson told me that they've given close to $200 million to Ole Miss alone. And then there's a guy named Jim Barksdale with Netscape.
Are you sure that was me?
Yeah, Netscape. Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember saying that.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Yancey Porter. Yancey Porter said that.
He does that to me a lot. He's like,
it's
like Audrey Brendan said something to you about you the other day that really made you mad, honey. I don't know. It was Brendan. But what he told you?
Hey, I love Yancey, but dang, dude, confuse me with Yancey. I don't get now. Confuse me with Brad Pitt.
Yancey Porter.
Yancey just comes on with a picture. I mean, that's even worse. So you're getting compared to.
I know we're ready for the real Yancey. Yancey, it looks just like the picture, but John, there's some serious money at Ole Miss. Dickie Scruggs and those attorneys. Just the tobacco settlement money alone is in the billions. I know that for a fact.
Yeah, it really is. And I know, there's a lot of listeners in the Memphis area. A ton of credit's got to go to Walker Jones too. Walker played there, and he and I were in administration together there for several years. And obviously has done a great job with the Grove Collective, arguably as good as any collective in the country to get people buying in, and it's just a clear example of the correlation between investment in and success output. And I think as we progress through the new age of college athletics, that is going to continue to be more and more the narrative. Yeah, you're still going to have a Cinderella story here or there, but the investment from the NIL perspective is going to be significant. And I know there have been 3 or 4 articles this week, again, talking about the Creightons, the Marquettes, the Gonzagas, folks like that who don't have to fund a football NIL amount or revenue share amount that may have an advantage down the line as it relates to men's basketball.
Yeah, that one will be big because we've been talking about it. And does anybody know when the exact date of the final judgment from the judge on the House settlement is coming down? I figured somebody on this panel might know.
Yeah, that's the next magic date, if you will, is April 7. Judge Walken out in the court in Northern California. That is the day where all of the objections will be heard from both sides. And at that point, there's an expectation of either, hey, we're going as it is effective July 1, or here are the changes that we're making. I really don't think there's going to be, 60 days ago, there were some people saying, oh, well, all these objections, it may just the can may get kicked down the road another year, because really you can't do it in a mid-academic year when it relates to such things as roster limits, things like that. If it's not implemented July 1 of 25 here in 3 months roughly, it would have to get kicked down the road another entire year to July 1 of 26. I think too much progress has been made. There are still some things that have to be worked out, not the least of which are some of those squad limit or roster limits on sports, 105 in football, or 34 in baseball. And how do you handle somebody who goes down with a season-ending injury? Can you replace them mid-year? There's still some small nuances to work out in there, but I think it's going to go maybe with a couple of tweaks. But we should know all of that either April 7th or, in the following couple of days after that.
All right. That'll be big. By the way, in the 1930s, look it up. There was a case where a player who'd been with, I think, TCU at the beginning of the football season finished that season with Texas A&M. That's nearly 100 years ago. So free agency
is coming back. It's coming back.
It's coming back. I'm just saying it's actually happened before. And, and if you go to enough wedding receptions and, the drink arounds after the wedding, you talk to some old timers, they'll tell you, I played in the 1930s and I remember getting paid. This is not new. It's just out in the open. So I thought we'd mention that. Matt, I got another one for you tonight. We talked Arizona. Their former coach, Sean Miller, by the way, is now coming to Texas.
Yes, he is.
Wow. Talk about it.
Well, and I know John's going to go, but a really unique story, John, is the whole Kevin Willard thing going on with Villanova patiently waiting to presumably name him their next head men's basketball coach, and the shots he's fired at his outgoing athletic director. I know we don't got time for that, John, but I think it's been really interesting. So going back to Sean Miller, he was considered the last time they made the hire, I believe, with Rodney Terry. Sean Miller's a really fantastic basketball coach. Let's just get that out in the front. Like any people that have recycled, there are situations that come up. I'll tell you a guy out there that may never coach is Bob Huggins. Now, Bob Huggins has some issues, but Sean Miller, I think, will do a tremendous job. Listen, I'm a big fan of Huggins. I've met him personally. Sean Miller will not only recruit well there, he'll have a great NIL, pool to work with. Texas basketball is going to take a big leap, guys.
That Kevin Willard thing, every time I see him talk, I think of Rihanna and her song "Bitch Better Pay Me My Money."
That's right.
That's right. And then that's it. I mean, if they give him the money, he's going to stay. If not, he's out of there. At least we have not had a coach leave during the tournament yet to not coach his team, which it seems like they're getting real close to doing.
Well, we had some leave in October, like Tony Bennett, Jim Larinaga at Miami. I mean, the ACC, those 5 coaches they've lost in the last few years, and they lost another one now going to Villanova. That's movement in the aisles going to a Big East program from a Big Ten program. That doesn't happen very often, but Villanova is a proven commodity at winning national championships. They got 3 of them, and 2 of them with Jay Wright. Dudley, you think Jay Wright's going to step back in the game?
If he's smart, he won't. I think he's accomplished all he needs to do, and he's got a nice little cushy, job there. He's able to see his kids who are grown now, pretty much. But I think that he's smart. He'll stay out of this situation, especially now with the landscape that college basketball has brought around. You've done your time. You've made your money. You've got your goals. And there's no reason to go back into the pressure cooker and have to deal with everything you have to deal with now.
Kind of like a crab who makes it out of the boil pot, He's like, get back in hey, don't go back. Well, here's the question. Hogs tonight against Texas Tech. Let's talk about that matchup. And then, Matt, you're going to weigh in on it. And Brendan,
go Gators.
I'll say this about Mark Clayton. Walter Clayton Jr.
Go Gators. I have not. I mean, at this point, that's all I have to say because everyone's picked the Gators, and they're the hot pick. And now, yesterday, the hot pick is Arkansas. Now everyone wants to get on Arkansas bandwagon. So it's
value
like
pick. Value pick.
It is, but it's like it's just it's just water cooler stuff, right? I mean, and everybody wants to, But in the end of the, we said this at the beginning of the year, by the way. So, as we kind of dwindle it all down, we're going to start seeing those teams and the same old coaches in the same old spots, which where it will be interesting to see, the Final Four. I think this year.
It will. And yesterday, John Brady talked about it, Dudley, that he'd been on Florida from back in early November. So, but Dudley, let's talk about that Hog Red Raiders matchup tonight?
Well, here will be a thing that maybe not a lot of people in the East will agree with when I say this, but I think Texas Tech is the biggest challenge of the three that Arkansas has had to play so far in terms of matchup, how they will deal with Arkansas, the way they play defense. Yes, Kansas had talent, but it was inconsistent throughout the year. St. John's just didn't shoot the ball well at all, and part of that was because Arkansas was playing better defense. But I just think overall, and I've watched a lot of Texas Tech during the year. Watched Toppin, have a great year. He's a guy that can really dominate a game, and it's going to come down to whether Arkansas with Jonas Adu, with Trevon Brazile now playing well, will you get any minutes out of Big Z? I don't even try to pronounce his last name. And this reintroduction of Adu Thero into the lineup for nothing else, it's 5 more fouls when you were playing 7 to 8 guys. Now with Boogie Flan back. I really think it's going to be about defense instead of offense, and I really think that people in Arkansas want me to pick Texas Tech, so I will, because I haven't picked Arkansas yet.
Yeah, they're super like people like Robert Hill and Michael Sag and Jim Cherry. All right, Matt, what he just said about this Texas Tech Arkansas matchup, you see it that way or differently?
Yeah, I think Texas Tech is very formidable, but I think Arkansas is playing as well as they have all year. I think it's one of the greatest games. It'll be one of the great games to watch this weekend. It wouldn't shock me if Arkansas won this game. But, on the flip side, Texas Tech is also a team, because of their physicality, that can play beyond this game. What I mean by that is, I don't want to Brendan, I don't want to go too far ahead of myself, but after Florida takes care of Maryland, that next matchup will be really, really intriguing if it plays out that way. Either way, I think it's going to be a pretty interesting pod in the West.
Why is that? What I mean, give me some more there.
I just think, I think Calipari's on a mission, guys. I mean, I think, you start out 0-5 in the SEC. Everybody kind of shuns you away. You get it going. You get the guys to believe. You win at Kentucky. Yeah. And once you did that, everyone's like, okay, man, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, coach. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. And a lot of these young guys on his roster, they just compete at such a high level. And Dudley said something really important. Their defense has gotten better, too, throughout the course of this year. And they do the little things, man. They get back in transition. They contest shots. They rebound misses. And when you do those things and you don't turn over the basketball, you don't have to shoot as well to win games. I mean, that's just simple facts. And this time of year, everyone's a little tighter. During the conference play, there's a tomorrow. There is no tomorrow right now. So I think Arkansas is playing with the biggest pot of house money of anyone left in the tournament. Calipari's been there before. He's a former national champion. He's a really good tournament coach. I think more so than Arkansas. I think it's Calipari.
Hey, and speaking of money, I'm just going to be very honest about this. The guys who were getting the most money through NIL were not playing the best at the start of the year for whatever reason. Injuries. Right. John L. Davis fell out of a golf cart. Got injured. I don't really know how that. I don't go fast enough on a golf course to fall out. But and Jonas Adu, those guys were making the most, and now they're playing like they were being paid to do. Although I hate to use that phrase, that's really what it is right now.
Could you imagine John Daly in college getting NIL for golf? What he would have been like?
Well, seeing as how I was around him and in college at the same time, he would have done pretty much the same stuff.
Yeah, it would have been the same deal. He just does the same thing he wants to do.
I know some guys in Memphis at one of the country clubs. He would play. He literally left and took off to Indiana that's where he put himself on the map. He would play with them. Everybody loves that guy. I mean, he's just
I've caddied for him.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah, of course. Yeah, he used to be out of Castle Pines, dude. That's the whole thing. When he had the old tequila incident, went a little crazy. Yeah, who they called? Buddy Martin. Can you help us spin this thing out? Yeah.
Oh, we're hearing some. When those
Hey,
glasses,
I'm just telling you, I've been with him before, having maybe a beer or two when we've watched TV about him being on the wagon for a while.
yeah,
So just take that.
yeah.
Yes,
Isn't he from Dardanelle, Arkansas? Up
he
there.
is. Yes,
Look, that is God's country.
he was a great field goal kicker, man. A
Wow.
lot of people know that, and he used his leg. So
Strong. How tall is he? 5'10", 5'11"?
If that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a chunk
as
of muscle.
wide as tall. But,
Yeah.
He's my boy. He's my boy.
All right, another one. I want to go back. We talk about Tom Izzo. He's been to 8 Final Fours. They last won the national championship, in 2000 when he had what they called the Flintstones, the 3 or 4 guys from Flint, Michigan. But he took over for a guy named Judd Heathcote. I'll never forget when Judd Heathcote did his farewell tour in the Big Ten. They were playing at, I think, Indiana, and they had a giant rocking chair out there at midcourt for him. But Tom Izzo said something in one of the press conferences, one of many the last few days, about an ode and a shout out to Judd Heathcote. Tom Izzo, I've seen him at many a Grizzly game when he would come to see his former players in the playoffs, like some that played for Golden State, and he'll just sit. He just sits out there with the fans. He's kind of like Joe Sixpack. But Matt, can he pull it off this year? I've got him in the Final Four, Michigan State.
Well, he can. I do think, and John Hartwell mentioned this earlier, I do think it's going to be a really fun matchup with Chris Beard and Ole Miss, because I think Ole Miss, what they did to Iowa State, they just Ole Miss is clicking right now. It's a little bit like Arkansas. Everybody, the one thing I think we can safely say, 7 out of 16 in the Sweet 16, yes, the SEC was real. We answered that question. I hope everybody feels that way. I sure do. But getting back to Izzo, he's one of the best coaches of our time. His ties to Judd Heathcote. Kelvin Sampson also has ties to Judd Heathcote.
Wow.
And you look at both of their teams, and they show it with their physicality and their defense. So, yes, they can, Rob. That's going to be a wonderful matchup against Ole Miss. And if it's Auburn and Michigan State in the Elite Eight, wow, what a game that would be. I still think right now I like Auburn in that pod, because I just think at the end of the day, you add up the athletes, and I think Auburn has.
Hey, Rob, one thing about you were mentioning honoring Coach Heathcote. One thing that Cal is doing, he's doing a lot of stuff right now. But as soon as they got done with the win the other day, he called Coach Nolan Richardson, got him on the phone.
Yeah.
Basically just celebrated with him, and then brought him in Monday, and he talked to the team. What a resource. And I'm telling you, you're making the right moves if you're incorporating everybody back into the program.
Yeah, so. Gary Harris, man, is in here right now with us from WVUA Channel 23 in Tuscaloosa, the sports director. Also, Tide 100.9. He and Rodney Orr do a great show Tuesday nights. You can catch it anytime. Tider Insider TV. Speaking of that, you know the man who I'm talking about from Florence, Alabama, Winifred E. Wimp Sanderson. He's one of the most popular coaches. I mean, not just among Alabama fans, but I've called him on his show in the morning with his son, Barry. I got hooked on your channel back during the clampdowns back in February and March of 2020. And I would listen in the morning. That guy, 3 straight Sweet 16s, 85, 86, 87. Nate Oates trying to break history. Has he brought Wimp Sanderson in to talk to the team, or have you had Wimp on your show to talk about this? Because the man in the plaid jacket, the plaid palace, go back 40 years ago, man, basketball in the SEC was hotter than the David Letterman show in the late night band with Paul Schaefer.
Well, I think that Wimp and Coach Oates have a really good relationship.
Good,
I know they've spent time together. And, in fact, Wimp was at the introductory press conference for Coach Oates. And, there's some video and a picture of them talking one-on-one after the press conference. So, yeah, I know they visit. I think Wimp is very popular. I think part of that has to do with the fact that, he's turning 88. He would kill me if he knew I said that, though. He's turning 88 later this year. And I think
he does know we can all look it up, right?
Yeah, but he still doesn't like me to mention it. And if he knows I said that, he's going to be upset.
Damn.
I can tell you that. But
that's amazing.
The thing about Wimp is, and it's wild, your perspective changes, and we're all getting older. But when you're, young, you think, I'm 60 now, and when you're in your 20s, you think 60 is old. Wow, I won't worry about 60. But Wimp really, of course, we know he didn't leave Alabama because of his own, his own decision. But he was still in his coaching prime, and I know he did. He did some good things at Little Rock. I mean, they had an NCAA caliber tournament team, and with Derek Fisher, and won the regular season championship, and then got beaten like the final seconds of the conference tournament championship game, where he would have gone to the NCAA with that program at Arkansas Little Rock, and I think might have won a game or two. I mean, that was a really good team. But I was always curious, and again, I don't want to ask Coach about it, even though I've interviewed him about other things. But I've talked to Barry about it. It seems to me. And of course, I think if this was a modern day, certainly it would have happened. That, I was always surprised he never got another crack, that he never got another shot at a big time program, whether it was in the SEC or another power conference. That always, with what he did at Alabama in 12 years with 6 SEC, tournament finals and a regular season championship and success, in the NCAA tournament, making it to numerous Sweet 16s, and he never got another crack at it. But I know he's very happy about the success of the program and the 3 straight Sweet 16s, which matches him. He went to 6, as I said, and went to 3 in a row. So I think he's pretty pleased with what they're doing.
This matchup, we've been talking about it during the show. John Hartwell was on earlier. He's got to get off on another coaching search. He just lost his women's coach.
Yeah, man, I saw that. Lord,
Missy Builder back. Now she's gone. So
she went to Southern Miss, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, and I'm trying to think. He had just finished last week his men's coaching search. So
and he hired Phil Cunningham for the men, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we just had a switch up here too. Obviously, Mike Neighbors mutually agreed to go. He got a job yesterday with the Los Angeles Sparks of the WNBA, and I was telling him, I'm sure your kids are going to think LA and Fayetteville are the same type situations. But then Arkansas hired Kelsey Music from ORU. Had a couple of other candidates I think that they were after as well, but she's been very impressive. But it's going to be like anything else, be it women's sports, men's sports, college sports in general. If they give her the money for the NIL, she'll be successful. If they don't, it will be treading water in the SEC, man.
It'll be hard, that's for sure.
Well, Gary, I mean, and again, I've never seen a spring like this where football is like, we'll get to football when we
back
can.
Burner. Yeah, all over the league. Yeah.
This league, and Matt, the SEC's become so focused on basketball. Like, I can't remember. Is there anything that we don't know about BYU? Because I want to give you credit. I remember a couple of years ago when Alabama was playing San Diego State, you took the time like a true grit journalist, and called out to San Diego to check about San Diego State. You've had people, I'm sure, on your show from Provo or Salt Lake City or whatever. What do you know about BYU?
Well, what I know about BYU is it's just going to be a crazy game. It could be 100 to 95 type game. The thing about Alabama is the way that they play, and it's a lot of people are playing fast, but Oates, I didn't realize it till he got here. It's one thing to talk about it. It's kind of like Dudley remembers, Noah Richardson. A lot of people wanted to say they played like Noah Richardson, but nobody really did. Nobody really got in your grill for 40 minutes the way that they did, and it was hard to duplicate that. I think Alabama offensively, with Oates just being all gas all the time and go. Most coaches, want to play fast when the opportunity presents itself, but they're not committed to doing it for 40 minutes. They're just not. I mean, they're gonna slow it down at some points in the game, or they're going to, if there's some foul trouble, they're going to play differently. Oates doesn't do that, and BYU really doesn't do that. I mean, they play. Kevin Young plays that NBA style, and they're not going to. In other words, I don't think their game plan is going to say, all right, we got to do this to beat Alabama. They're going to play the way they play. And if they score more points at the end of the game, they'll win the game. If they don't, their season will end, and they'll get ready to do it again next year, pretty much like Alabama. Nate Oates never changes the way he plays. I can say that about him in 6 years as the coach at Alabama. And that, I think, and Matt might speak to that. I think that's kind of unique. I think most coaches have a philosophy and have a way they play, but depending on the opponent, depending on the situation, might try to employ something different, Matt. Alabama doesn't do that. And from what I see of Kevin Young, BYU doesn't do that either. So these two teams are going to get up and go. Yeah, BYU is going to go 10 or 11 deep. They got 3 or 4 guys on the perimeter that can knock it down. They got 6 guys, that range from 6 to 16 points per game. I'm just impressed with them looking, kind of researching them, reading about them. They're BYU. They're back in the Sweet 16 for the first time in a while. Mark Pope kind of played very similarly, and I guess that's why one reason they hired Young, to keep it in the, keep that same style. But they're committed to what they do. I think it's going to be a fun game. You guys can speak to what you think about it, but I think it's going to be one of those games where first one to 100 may be the winner.
Matt?
Yeah, Gary, before you get on, the one thing I said tonight, the safest bet is the over in that game, because I think, like you, it's interesting about styles, because normally if you are preparing for Bama and you're not that style, man, your whole week is talking about transition defense. We got to get back. We got to make sure we have our contestant all made threes or attempted threes. But like with BYU, I mean, what's really, BYU's not going to be phased about prep for Alabama
at all,
because they're doing the same thing in their version of it, right? It's about who makes more shots. Gary, I said when BYU beat Wisconsin, they were 12 of 26 from 3. When they struggled against VCU, despite the win, they were 7 of 20 for 3. So if they don't make 10 to 15 threes, I think Bama wears them down. That's just me personally.
No, I agree. I think Matt that's why he's coach, Rob, and I think he's dead on. I think both teams will play. I think ultimately, to me, Alabama's going to be able to score more points. Yeah. I just do. I think over 40 minutes, they will outscore Brigham Young. And I've got a lot of respect for Brigham Young. Like I said, kind of digging BYU. I guess I prefer to be called BYU. Digging in there to what they do. But yeah, I'm right with Matt. I just think Alabama will be able to score more points in this game. And now listen, I did see one BYU analysis piece, and it said for BYU to win, they needed to, like Matt said, make threes, play some defense and offensive rebounding. And, the thing about the offensive rebounding, though, is, they'd rather probably not have to get off a lot of offensive rebounds, because you'd rather be making those shots. That's the thing. So that's kind of, that's pretty simplistic, but at the same time, it's kind of counterproductive. If you're getting a bunch of offensive rebounds, it probably means you're not shooting a high percentage from the field. So I think both these teams would prefer to shoot a high percentage from the field. But yeah, if they're both missing shots, then who can get on the glass probably will be a big part in this game. And I do think ultimately, if it is a close game and it is tight, and there's a lot of points in it over the last 5 minutes, it could come down to who can get some stops at that point in the game.
Well, I do think that y'all are right. I mean, it sounds nuts to say first one to 100 in an NCAA tournament game is going to win, but I think that's probably accurate. Of all these games left to go here, that's going to be one where the shots are going to be flying, and it's going to be very entertaining to watch. And you really might have to get to 100 to win this ball game. And both teams, we all know Alabama's capable of it. The BYU has been under the radar all year. Since I've got like 18 TVs here in the living room, I'm watching late night, West Coast basketball. So I see a lot of them, even though I know they're in the Big 12.
Yeah.
But I think it's be a very entertaining matchup. I was just looking at all these matchups. There's not a bad one. And that's the way it's supposed to be at the Sweet 16.
Can I say something about the SEC overall, Rob?
Absolutely.
When I was in Q, and obviously Arkansas is an example, and Ole Miss too. You both mentioned them getting hot at the right time. I think this is such a tournament sport. I still think about Auburn last year winning the SEC tournament, then laying an egg in the NCAA tournament. When you get 7 teams into the Sweet 16, now everybody wants to move on. I get that, but I'll say this for Alabama, even despite the fact they went to the Final Four last year, and some people had them preseason number 1. If you can get to the Sweet 16. Doesn't mean you don't want to go further, but I don't think there's any way in the world you could say it was a bad season.
That's right.
If you get through that first weekend and you're playing into that second week, and so to have 7 teams like you guys were alluding to, with the pressure on the SEC, because there were a lot of people around the country saying, man, I hope they don't, I hope they only wind up with 3 or 4 in Sweet 16. That'll show them. And then you had a couple teams lose early. Now, you got to remember, some of these SEC teams were lower seeds. I mean, and Texas.
The lowest seed left in the tournament is Arkansas.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm with you guys. To get 7 teams into the Sweet 16, all playing on this second weekend is an amazing accomplishment. And, the women have 6, and had Alabama not, had that heartbreaking loss to Maryland, blowing a 17-point lead late in the third quarter, the women would have 7, and they still have 6, which I think matches the record on the women's side. So the SEC in basketball is just had an amazing year on both the men's and the women's side, and still have 13 teams playing. Men and women combined is incredible.
Well, I was listening to one local radio show here. I won't out them; they know who they are, though. But you had a situation where they were talking about, the SEC is going to be proven that it wasn't really that good a league. That just like football and all that. I was like, dude, I know y'all want to get attention, but 14 teams are in the tournament. Some of them are going to get through. To the Sweet 16, and you get 7 through there, and all we do these days is hear about stuff like, the ACC and the Big East are going to combine now because the SEC is too good in basketball. And I think I seem to remember this discussion in different sports as we go along here. But now that to me is the 7 teams of the Sweet 16 means you've arrived, but also when other conferences are talking about joining together because of how good you are, you've done what you intended to do way back in the day when the athletic director said, y'all got to start scheduling better. Y'all got to get better. Yeah. And they did.
What's interesting is before the season, I read a national columnist. I can't remember who it was, but they're pretty well known. Wrote why BYU has the least chance to be successful among the new members of the Big 12. I'm not kidding you. And it was in all sports. And I'm like, obviously this person doesn't understand. There's around 16 million Mormons in the world, and they will give their last dime.
Yeah, they're ponying up.
So they'll do that. Number 2, 24 men's and women's teams make the tournament. But you go back to 2016 when the ACC had 7 teams invited, 6 of them made it to the Sweet 16. So on a percentage basis, that's incredible. This year, 14, still half of them make it. That's nothing short of amazing. Let me say something, Brendan, real quick about one of our sponsors. We're going to come right back because this is great stuff. Winter Timber Outdoors in Athens, Alabama. It is turkey season. I'm getting all these texts. Mark Ham's heading down to South Texas this week to go kill some Rios. The Rio Grande, there's 4 kinds of turkeys. And he's heading down there. Get everything you need. Winter Timber Outdoors, located in Athens, open every day of the week, building a new store in Auburn. They're going to try to grow in the footprint that is the Southeastern Conference. All your turkey calls, slate calls, box calls, diaphragm calls, if you like to call them with your mouth. The turkey loads, the Migra copper-plated, they are lethal. 1 shot, 1 kill. It's what it takes with a turkey. You don't get many doubles. But anyway, they got all your gear you need. Sitka, Dixie decoys, duck camp, boots, shoes, over 2,000 shotguns, rifles, and handguns in the store. Winter Timber, proud to be associated with them here on Sidelines. Gary,
hey, Rob, can I take a crack at the 4 turkeys? Not that I'm a hunter.
Yeah.
My time,
I was about to say them.
I was afraid he's talking about us.
The
Rio.
Eastern,
Yep.
The Osceola.
Yep.
And there one up in Nebraska, isn't that one of them?
The Miriams.
The Miriam, yeah.
Yeah. Now, that's called a Grand Slam. Now, if you head down into Mexico, you can get a Gould's turkey.
Okay, I hadn't heard of that one.
I thought cold turkey was in there too.
You can get something else if you go too far down into Mexico.
That's right. You got to be careful. Gary, I love that bringing in Wimp Sanderson. I've told you about watching him in 2006 at an Auburn game, Faulkner State, when his son was coaching there, watching the line of people at the Coliseum in Auburn all the way outside to get a picture or an autograph or just to shake his hand. I mean, what happens is, you're right, over time, you know this, Matt, and so do you, Dudley and Brendan, everybody. These coaches, you're like, you know what? They're just doing their job for their school. I don't hate anybody. I just think it's really cool, and you're right. Enjoy them while they're here.
I look at that Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, there we go. Hey, but I think about Wimp Sanderson. When he's on the show, a lot of times he's down at the beach when he's on his show in the morning. But damn, man, that plaid jacket, the plaid palace, that was ahead of its time. And my God, in 1992, when they opened Bud Walton Arena, good gosh. Gary, I know you've got to get going for your show. What are you going to be talking about today? Are you going to squeeze in any time for the other sport? Oh, I mean, football?
Yeah, well, I am. Coach
This is
DeBoer's going to meet with the
crazy.
media later this morning, so
Yeah.
they've got a little. I don't know if you can call it a scrimmage anymore. Quick thought on that. Of why I think football has been, basketball's doing well. Plus, I think football's so different now in the spring.
Yeah.
The way they practice, and Alabama announced yesterday that the 8A game is now becoming an 8A practice.
There we go.
But we'll talk about that. But I will have Bart Heitz on. The former Mississippi State Final Four point guard from Winfield. I call it Heitz on hoops. Man, he's great at going around the SEC. And so basketball will be the main topic. But getting back to Wimp, one more thing on him. And I remember those games against Arkansas, boy, when they came in the league. Had he not left Alabama, I do think he would have gotten to Final Four. He was just recruiting too consistently well, too many NBA guys. Like I said, 12 years, 6 SEC tournament championships, 1 regular season title. He was still in his 50s. So I do think that Alabama would have gotten a Final Four under Wimp Sanderson, but it wasn't meant to be. But you're right. His demeanor was so gruff. He was so, ornery and hard edged but over time that changes. And you're right. He's much more approachable now. And I think he's become a very lovable figure. Hey, I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you so much, Gary. I always love having you on. That is so cool. Dudley, I don't know Nolan Richardson. You do. You worked with him. You worked with Eddie Sutton. Matt, a guy that I remember, Dr. Tom Davis at Boston College. I think Bruce Pearl was a manager for him.
He was.
He goes to Iowa. You follow these guys, and I'd say Nolan Richardson's probably in his 80s now.
Yes.
But definitely. What I saw on X of him coming out there to that basketball team at Arkansas, Cal gets it, man. He knows how to tap into the history. He's an energetic, vivacious, effervescent guy and almost a daily celebrant at Mass. I think that's the biggest deal. Of all of his wins, that's the biggest deal to me personally.
Yeah, one of the great things in my life was the opportunity to work for Coach Richardson and work for Coach Sutton. They were both like second dads, so away from home for me, helped me grow as a man. And I watched a lot of great basketball, but a lot of great just life lessons in watching them take young men and growing them up. And that's one of the things that when they are remembered, they'll be remembered for their records and winning national championships and getting to Final Fours. But that's what I'm going to remember the most. That being said, boy, if you didn't do what you were supposed to do, they would come at you. I don't know that you can do that these days the way they. And I agreed to do the high school dude in New York should have pulled the girls' ponytail. What are we doing here now? I mean, why are coaches pulling? You know what I'm talking about? That was what, dude?
I know,
Matt. What the hell was that? I mean,
I saw the clip and I thought it was like memed or made up. I had no idea that was real.
Yeah,
really. And I'm like, I've coached women my whole career.
Yes.
And they coach men too, but I'm like, you don't touch a player, and you certainly don't do it that way. And I want to say one Nolan story. In 1994, Dudley, I believe that's the national championship year. They practiced in our gym at Rhodes College because one of the regionals was at Memphis.
I was there, man. I
got a chance to
Y'all
watch
ran
that.
into each other.
I
got a chance to watch that practice, and I was a young assistant. I helped cut up the practice tape. It was VHS back then, and got it to coach. But
God,
it was unreal. He would be like in the middle of the court, Dudley, and it was like just fast and furious cars, thoroughbreds, just sprinting. I got to tell you, they were so deep, and when they practiced, hell, the second best team in the country may have been their 6 through 10. I swear to God, with their system, and just no one at that time. We remember in 1991 UNLV and how good they were, but that team that year with Coach Richardson was just such a pleasure to watch. And man, it was definitely PG-13, Dudley.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I think that was my 8th year as a sports writer after being, there with him on the bench as a manager and a graduate assistant. But it was definitely not for the faint of heart, but he got everything that he wanted out of them. And it was one of those things that, during the Ron Hury, Todd Day,
Corliss Williamson
days, he would let them say what they wanted.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But then he'd fire back.
That's right.
And another thing you probably couldn't do these days, but it was fun to watch. And it was why they got there, because they were they were already tough coming into the system, but then nothing bothered them.
No.
Because of what he had done. And everybody thought the 40 Minutes of Hell was was playing the game. No, it was practice.
It was practice, man.
Yeah.
I saw that practice, Rob, and I got to tell you, I've never seen anything like it. And I've been around this basketball planet for a while, and there have been teams in our gym. I've watched Izzo's teams practice. I've watched Lute Olson. I've watched Bob Huggins. There was nothing ever like, and this is the day before the regional.
Wow.
There's nothing ever like watching Nolan's team in those heydays get after each other. And Dudley's right. Nothing could phase that group because they saw it every day in practice. Games were probably easier.
Guess what he did before the NCAA tournament this year? They had like lost 2 games in a row, or something like, or played bad in 2 games in a row. He put on the "Ain't No Stopping Us Now" song.
God.
Yeah,
from McFadden and Whitehead, and played it the entire practice. Entire practice. And I'd love the song, but by the time the practice was over with, I was like, that's enough of that now.
Yes.
Well, we made pledges during
Ain't no
Hell Week.
stopping us now,
We played that song for Hell Week for our pledges. I remember in college, Kool and the Gang, You Dropped the Bomb on Me. They smashed 5 of the boom boxes. We had to keep replacing them, and each one of them had a cassette with that song on auto rewind. But you can only hear a song like that so many times. But I got to tell you, I love. And you can coach tough today. I think the kids are starved for it, but grabbing a player, you draw the line. And I spent a lot of time as a reporter at Fort Benning. You never see an American drill sergeant touch a recruit. No. That's where we draw the line. That's why morale is so strong. Now, they'll motivate you in certain ways, but we need tough, hard coaching. But Nolan Richardson, it's so good to see him, because growing up in Memphis, remember George Lapidus would have Todd Day's father, and he would have all these guys on the radio in Memphis. And that Arkansas coming into Memphis and getting those players. And I think about, Corliss Williamson from Conway, Arkansas. I spent a lot of time in Arkansas, obviously. Pat Bradley, and I've been trying to get hold of Pat. I want to get him on the show. Help me out.
I sent him another text last night.
I know he's busy.
Yeah, and I will call him.
And today. I appreciate that, because he is so passionate. But I go back. It's an anniversary. It's a 3-year anniversary when Arkansas on a Thursday night was playing the number 1 overall seed. Y'all remember this, Gonzaga. Yeah. And he was on SEC Network, and he goes, I'm from Everett, Mass, but I tell you, living in Arkansas. He goes, these Arkansas fans, no matter where they are, you go to South Arkansas, to El Dorado, or down there in Hope, or you're up in the Ozarks in Evening Shade, or Little Rock, or Fayetteville. He goes, whatever they got a lot of money, they don't have much. They got that Arkansas flag out there in the front yard. A lot of Razorback pride. Makes me proud. He loves the role he's in. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's a more loving, passionate guy on TV than the shooter. And I'm going to ask him, so you think you're a god? I'm a shooting guy.
When Arkansas was recruiting him, I asked him, what do you play, point guard or shooting guard? He said, I'm a shooting god. And I said, okay. All right, my man. Yeah, he's been, I covered him as a player, and then he's been a great friend over the years, and we'll make sure we get him on here. But
we're ready.
But him being from the Boston area and me being a Boston Celtic fan, it was always going to work out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no doubt.
And he lives in Little Rock. And Joe Klein's in Little Rock, and Jimmy Dykes, I think, is up in Springdale or Fayetteville. But
Jimmy spends time in Knoxville now because he's got a daughter in college there. So he he's got he's big time. He's got houses all over the place.
All those guys though, it's that basketball. It's an incubator. Coming out of there. Northwest Arkansas is an amazing place. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up. Tell me this. Do you think that we're going to see any surprises? The only double-digit seed in the Sweet 16 is Arkansas. Y'all don't think that this has ruined college basketball, do you? Maybe the committee got the seeding right. What do you think happened?
I think maybe they did. As I look over this, Oregon beating Duke, that's Oregon's been one of the teams. I think that, if you're going to have a surprise, I think maybe y'all mentioned that, the Alabama. Other than that,
Arizona beating Duke,
right?
Yeah. Yes. Excuse me. Yeah.
But that Oregon Zona game, Dudley, was a great game. It could have gone either way.
But all this talk on an SEC, and we barely mentioned Kentucky and Tennessee.
I know.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it.
I'm looking
We did
forward
yesterday
to that.
a lot.
Yeah. On my normal day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'll be back to my normal day.
Yes.
But I think that's going to be a great game. And can Kentucky beat them 3 times in a year? We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I will say, Mark Pope, the Kentucky, I think that worked out great.
Did you realize he played at Kentucky? I've heard that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been mentioned once or twice.
I didn't know that. No, but Matt, along the passion, basketball, and it's so incredible. And then Monday night, April 7th, late Monday night, it's over.
It's football season.
And then we have to talk about college football.
Or baseball. I'm sorry, college baseball.
And baseball. And it's opening day today, by the way, Matt. But Matt,
one of the 2 best Thursdays in the year.
Yeah.
The other one was last week.
It really is. And like I said, we're less than a mile from Truist Park, home of the Atlanta Braves. And what's really cool, by the way, is the number of people in the neighborhood here that just walk to the games. There is no better sport.
They rent that place out as Airbnb? Because,
Hey, it's awesome. If I go up there and I'm overserved, I just walk home.
Yeah, see, that's what I was going to say. The ballpark, it's cool that the ballpark's right there too, but all those little
the Battery.
The Battery.
Oh, my God. The Battery has all these bars and restaurants and shops, and it is the most fan-friendly park.
Yeah.
No, to me, the greatest baseball city in America, without a question, and I'm not biased. I'm just being objective. It is St. Louis. We're going to wrap it up, but our producer is saying we're going along. But, guys, I love this. Matt Dean over at Rhodes College. If I wasn't in Atlanta, I'd take you to lunch today. My treat.
He says that all the time, doesn't he?
He does, and
I tried last week, and he was
paying
booked.
The bill, Dudley. So it does. It's interesting how that works out.
He was booked last week.
Yeah, but he wants you to drive to Grubbs too.
Hey, man, this is going to be awesome. Y'all, thank y'all both. Hogville.net, Dudley Dawson, Matt Dean, Associate AD, Rhodes College, basketball junkies. We'll do it again next week, and we're going to have a great one. Let me say something about our sponsors. Thank you, gentlemen. Landers Ford. Brad Bellamy, the general manager of Landers, said on the show recently that I think Kent Ritchie said it's almost un-American to not have a car payment. Get out there, check out the inventory. They're open every day of the week except Sunday. The day means more than the dollar. That's an old SAG, big and tall shop slogan, but it's true. Their service department, if you're getting your vehicle worked on, they'll pick you up and drive you, take you home. They'll provide round-trip transportation. They have 3 dedicated drivers. Great service department. The Ford Truck Month sales event, the Ford Truck Promise. They've got a lot going on. Ask about it. Let them you heard about them on SEC Sidelines, $500 off. They'll work with you on your credit. Whatever your situation is, they will exhaust every possibility. Everything's on the table when you're working with them. They're great people to work with. In the Mid-South, they're the #1 Ford dealership. Their name is everywhere. A lot of you in this audience went to Christian Brothers High School like me. Look what they've done at Tom Nick Stadium, Landers Field, a massive commitment. They put their money back into the Mid-South, and you can have a vehicle delivered anywhere you live. LandersFordMemphis.com. Down the street from Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company, they are open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So they'll be opening up in a little less than an hour. Go out there on the square, get something to eat, go shopping. They have incredible boot selection. We're here in Atlanta. Audrey's going to wear her ostrich boots while she's out. But they have Barber, Filson, Pendleton, Schaefer. Great-looking clothes. Still have a 50% off rack. All the winter stuff, they're getting, it's on sale. Vests, you name it, it's for sale, 50% off. They have the Rock Mount shirts. They got it all. Knives, sunglasses, belts, clothing. Check it out. Again, kids stuff, great kids boots and toys as well. Hey, let me say this for executive producer Brendan Martin, who is just extraordinary what he does. Check out all of our shows. Buddy Martin show tonight, 9 p.m., orangeandbluebloods.com. A lot of Gator talk, but we do AU Undercover on Wednesdays. Scarbo knows we're adding shows, building this channel. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Mother Teresa's right. We can't all do everything, but we can all do something. Have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow.